Yuna stood at the observation deck of Viridian Crossing, watching the stars through the massive viewport. The space station was peaceful, as it always had been. Ships from dozens of worlds docked here to trade goods and share knowledge. She had been assigned here 3 months ago as Earth's diplomatic representative, and she loved every moment of it. The station was home to many species. The Altherians looked like walking crystals that caught the light beautifully. The Vrel moved on 6 legs and communicated through soft clicking sounds. The Telmorians needed water suits to survive in the oxygen atmosphere, their blue skin visible through the transparent material. All of them were kind and curious about humans. The newest species to join the Galactic Consortium. Yuna had served in Earth's Navy before becoming a diplomat. She missed the structure of military life sometimes, but this was better. This was what humanity had worked toward for so long. Peace among the stars. The alarm shattered that peace. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A loud siren made everyone freeze. Yuna's military training kicked in immediately. She ran toward the command center, her heart pounding. Other aliens moved more slowly, confused by the sudden noise. "What's happening?" an Altherian asked, its crystalline voice tinged with fear. Yuna didn't answer. She reached the command center and saw Ambassador Hyan Wu staring at the screens with wide eyes. Outside the station, ships were approaching. They weren't normal trading vessels. These were warships, dark and angular, covered in weapon ports. "Calvish Dominion," Hyan Wu said quietly. "They're hailing us with a demand to surrender." Station Commander Velis, a tall Vrel, touched the communication panel with a trembling leg. "This must be a misunderstanding. We are a peaceful station. We have no military value." The screen filled with the face of a Calvish commander. The species looked almost reptilian, with scaled skin and sharp teeth. "Your surrender is not negotiable. Power down your shields and prepare for boarding. Resistance will be met with force." Velis looked around helplessly. "We have no weapons to resist. Our shields are only for asteroids and debris. Please, there must be the transmission cutoff." A moment later, the station shook violently. The Calvish had fired on them. Yuna grabbed the edge of a console to steady herself. The lights flickered. On the screens, she could see the station's shields failing under the assault. They were designed to deflect rocks, not military weapons. They would last minutes at best. "We need to evacuate," Yuna said firmly. Hyan Wu shook his head. "The escape pods can't outrun those ships. We need help." He looked at Yuna with meaning in his eyes. "We need to contact Earth." The station shook again. Harder this time. On the monitors, Yuna could see Calvish boarding pods launching toward them. They would breach the hull soon. "The main communication array is still active," a Telmorian technician reported. "But it won't be for long." Yuna made a decision. "I'll send the message. Ambassador, evacuate as many people as you can to the inner chambers. Seal the blast doors." "Yuna, if you go to the array, you'll be in their path." "I know." Yuna was already moving. She ran through the corridors, past aliens who had never known fear like this. They huddled in corners, their peaceful lives shattered in moments. Some called out to her, asking what to do. She wanted to help them all, but the message had to go out first. The communication array was in a small room near the station's exterior. Yuna sealed the door behind her and activated the system. She had seconds. Maybe a minute before the Calvish cut the power or destroyed this section. Her fingers flew across the controls. She set the message to repeat on all Earth frequencies. She attached the station's coordinates. Then she accessed the security cameras and began recording. The footage was horrific. Calvish soldiers had already breached the outer sections. They moved through the corridors with weapons raised. When they encountered station security guards, Rel and Altherians, with ceremonial shock batons, they simply shot them down. The aliens fell without understanding what had happened. Their species had evolved past warfare thousands of years ago. They had no concept of military combat. Yuna kept recording. She captured everything. The Calvish dragging prisoners together. The casual violence they showed to beings who offered no resistance. The way they stripped the station of its resources like pirates. She compressed the video and attached it to the message. Then she typed quickly, "Viridian Crossing under attack? Calvish Dominion. Multiple casualties. Requesting immediate assistance. This is not a drill." She hit send. The station shook violently. The lights in her room went out, replaced by emergency red lighting. She could hear boots in the corridor outside, heavy, rhythmic. Military boots. Yuna looked around the small room for a weapon. There was nothing. She positioned herself beside the door, ready to fight with her bare hands if needed. It wouldn't be enough, but she had been a soldier once. She would act like one now. The door exploded inward. Smoke filled the room. Through it came Calvish soldiers, their weapons raised. They saw her immediately. "Human," one of them said, its voice a growl. "You will come with us." Yuna raised her hand slowly, but her mind was racing. The message was sent. Earth would receive it. What happened next depended on how quickly her people responded. The Calvish. Soldiers grabbed her arms roughly and dragged her into the corridor. As they moved through the station, Yuna saw the devastation. Bodies lay in the halls. Aliens who had never hurt anyone, now dead because they didn't know how to fight back. They threw her into a large cargo bay that had been converted into a prison. Dozens of survivors huddled there, surrounded by guards. Yuna saw Ambassador Hoyanwu in the corner, blood on his forehead but alive. He caught her eye and gave a small nod. The message had been sent. Now they had to survive long enough for help to arrive. The Calvish commander entered the bay, looking over his prisoners with satisfaction. "Your consortium is weak," he announced. "Your species are soft. You will learn to serve the Dominion, or you will die." Yuna said nothing, but in her mind, she thought about Earth, about the world that had forged humanity through ice ages and predators, through diseases and disasters. The Calvish thought they had conquered an easy target. They had no idea what was coming. Fleet Admiral Su Jin sat in the command center beneath Seoul, reviewing reports when the distress signal arrived. The automated systems flagged it as Priority 1 and routed it directly to her station. She opened the file and felt her blood run cold. The video showed everything. The attack on Viridian Crossing, the aliens falling under Calvish weapons, the prisoners being gathered like animals. And at the end, Yuna's voice calm despite the chaos around her, requesting immediate assistance. Su-Jin had fought in the Titan Wars 20 years ago. She had seen combat that would break most people. But watching those peaceful aliens die without knowing how to defend themselves stirred something deep in her chest. Rage, perhaps. Or maybe it was the protective instinct that had kept humanity alive on a world that tried to kill them every day. She touched her communication panel. "Get me the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. Full mobilization. I want them ready to move in 2 hours." Admiral Harade said carefully, "We could prepare more thoroughly if we wait." "Gather intelligence, plan the operation 2 hours," Su Jin repeated. "Those people don't have time for us to be thorough." Within minutes, the command center filled with officers. Captain Taman arrived first, still in his exercise clothes. He commanded the dreadnought Indomitable, the fleet's most powerful ship. He watched the video in silence, his jaw tightening with each scene. "How long to reach them?" he asked. "For days at maximum speed," Su Jin answered. "Your crews won't like it. That's a lot of constant acceleration." Taman shook his head. "They'll manage. We all will." Lieutenant Ji Woo entered next, her Marine combat uniform crisp, despite the early hour. She was shorter than most of her soldiers, but no one questioned her authority. She had earned her rank in the hardest way possible, through the urban combat trials on Mars. "Marines are ready, Admiral," she reported. "Give us the word." Dr. Donghain was the last to arrive. He wasn't military, but every expedition fleet carried xenobiologists. His job was to help humans understand alien species. Today, he looked troubled. "I've been reviewing consortium data," he said, pulling up holographic displays. "The species on that station evolved on worlds very different from Earth. Lower gravity, fewer predators, more stable climates. They've been peaceful for thousands of years."
"What are you saying?"
Su Jin asked. I'm saying they don't understand violence the way we do. To them, what the Calvish are doing seems impossibly cruel. But to us, he paused. To us, this barely qualifies as organized warfare. The Calvish are raiders, not soldiers. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Taemin spoke. Then we'll show them what soldiers look like. Sujin nodded. Brief the fleet. I want everyone to understand what we're walking into. These Calvish have been terrorizing species that don't fight back. That ends today. The third expeditionary fleet launched from Earth orbit exactly 2 hours later. 37 ships, ranging from the massive Indomitable down to fast-tack corvettes. Each one pushed its engines harder than was technically safe, but human ships were built for human crews. They could take the punishment. Inside the Indomitable, Taemin walked through the corridors checking on his people. The constant acceleration meant everyone felt heavier than normal. Some ships would have crew members in medical bays from the strain, but humans had evolved on a high-gravity world. Their bones were dense, their hearts strong, their muscles adapted to constant work against Earth's pull. How are you holding up? He asked Commander Mira, his tactical officer. She looked tired but determined. I've run simulations on the Calvish ships based on the sensor data from the station. Their tactics are straightforward. They rely on overwhelming force against weaker opponents. They've never fought humans before, Taemin observed. No, sir. I don't think they're ready for what we bring to a fight. Deeper in the ship, Lieutenant Jiwoo drilled her Marines. They trained in the cramped corridors, practicing room-clearing techniques and hand-to-hand combat. The aliens would find this training strange. Most species in the consortium had never developed martial arts. Why would they? They didn't fight each other, but humans had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of violence. Every culture on Earth had developed its own fighting styles. GOE's Marines knew a dozen ways to disable an opponent without killing them, and 100 ways to kill if necessary. Sergeant Ari led one of the training sessions, her voice sharp and commanding. Remember, we're going in to rescue hostages, not just to fight. Identify civilians, protect them, neutralize threats. We do this clean. And if the Calvish don't surrender, a young Marine asked. Ari's expression hardened. Then we show them why you don't attack humans or their friends. In the medical bay, Hae-won prepared for casualties. She was a combat medic, trained to save lives under fire. She checked supplies and ran through procedures in her mind. Human medicine was more advanced than most species realized. On Earth, survival meant adapting to constant injury. Humans could recover from wounds that would kill other species. Dr. Dong Hyen visited the medical bay to help prepare. The aliens on that station will need treatment too, he said. Their biology is different. Lower pain tolerance, slower healing. What seems like a minor injury to us could be life-threatening to them. We'll be ready, Hae-won assured him. No one dies if I can help it. On Viridian Crossing, the situation had grown worse. Yuna sat with the other prisoners in the cargo bay, watching the Calvish guards. She'd been counting them, noting their patrol patterns, looking for weaknesses. Old habits from her military days, Ambassador Hyen-woo whispered beside her. Stop planning. You'll get yourself killed. I'm not planning anything, Yuna lied. Just observing, as the message was sent. Help will come. Firth received it. If they decide to respond, if they can get here in time, Hwan-woo smiled slightly despite their situation. You don't know Admiral Sujin like I do? She doesn't abandon people. Calvish officer walked past their section. He looked at the prisoners with contempt. To him, they were weak creatures from weak worlds. The humans looked no different from the others. Just another species of soft, civilized beings. He had no idea that Yuna was measuring the distance between them, calculating if she could reach him before the other guards could react. He didn't know that every human in that cargo bay had been running scenarios in their minds since capture. In the Calvish Command Center, their intelligence officer presented a report to the commander. We detected a transmission before we cut the station's communications. It was directed toward a planet called Earth. The commander waved a dismissive hand. What kind of planet? The intelligence officer checked his data. It's classified as a Class 12 death world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous fauna. No significant military presence detected in this sector. A death world. The commander laughed. Then they're primitives who somehow achieved spaceflight. If they respond at all, it will be with whatever pathetic defense force they scrape together. We'll crush them like the others. He looked out at the captured station with satisfaction. This had been easy. The consortium species folded without real resistance. If Earth sent ships, they would fall just as quickly. 4 days later, the Calvish sensors detected ships approaching. The commander ordered his fleet to intercept positions. He counted the human vessels. Fewer than 40 ships against his 80. This will be over quickly, he told his officers. Prepare to teach these Deathworlders their place. But as the human fleet drew closer, something seemed wrong. The ships were moving too fast. The acceleration would crush most biological crews, and their formation was aggressive, not defensive. Captain Taman stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the Calvish fleet take position. They were doing exactly what Commander Mira had predicted. Standard intercept pattern. No innovation. No adaptability. All ships, he said calmly into the fleet channel. Remember, we're here for our people. But if the Calvish want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Engage at will. The distance closed. The Calvish opened fire first, and humanity's Deathworlders showed the galaxy what 4 billion years of survival had taught them about war. The first Calvish volley missed completely. Their targeting systems expected the human ships to follow predictable evasive patterns. Instead, the fleet split into 3 groups and accelerated in different directions, each ship pulling maneuvers that should have been impossible. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Timon felt the ship bank hard to starboard. The artificial gravity compensators struggled to keep up. He felt himself pressed into his chair by forces that would have killed most alien species. His crew endured it without complaint. This was normal for them. Turn fire, he ordered. Target their command ship. The Indomitable's main cannons spoke. Rails accelerated projectiles to a fraction of light speed. The Calvish command ship's shields took the hit, flickered, and failed. The second volley punched through the hull. Their shields are weaker than expected, Commander Mira reported. They're designed to stop energy weapons, not kinetic strikes. They've been fighting species that use plasma and lasers, Taman said. Keep using the railguns. Across the battlefield, the smaller human ships darted between the larger Calvish vessels. They moved like fighters, like predators hunting prey. The Calvish tried to track them, but their targeting systems couldn't keep up. The human ships anticipated where the Calvish would fire and simply weren't there when the shots arrived. Inside the Calvish fleet, confusion spread. Their ships began taking damage from angles that should have been covered. The humans weren't following any tactical doctrine the Calvish recognized. They should have formed a defensive line. They should have tried to match numbers. Instead, they were everywhere at once. A Calvish cruiser exploded as 3 human corvettes hit it simultaneously from different vectors. The timing was perfect, coordinated by computers and human intuition working together. Their fleet coordination is breaking down, Mira observed. They're trying to regroup, but they can't decide on a formation. Taman nodded. They're used to overwhelming weaker opponents. They don't know how to fight someone who hits back. He opened the channel to Lieutenant Jiwoo. Are your Marines ready? Ready and waiting, sir? Give us a target, the station. We're breaking through to get our people out. The Indomitable and 2 other heavy ships punched through the Calvish line. They took fire from multiple directions, but their shields held. Human shield technology was different from consortium designs. It had to be. On Earth, they tested shields against nuclear weapons and meteor strikes, not ceremonial defense scenarios. Boarding pods launched from the Indomitable's belly. They were simple, brutal designs. Armored shells filled with Marines fired like bullets toward the station. The Calvish point defense tried to shoot them down, but most got through. The pods hit the station hull and drilled through. Lieutenant Jiwoo was in the first one. The moment the seal confirmed, she kicked the door open and her squad poured out. The Calvish defenders in that section had set up a barricade. They opened fire immediately. Jiwoo's Marines scattered, using the corridor walls and maintenance alcoves for cover. Their armor absorbed hits that would have killed unprotected targets. Sergeant Ari threw a flashbang grenade. The Calvish, with their sensitive eyes, screamed and covered their faces. The Marines advanced quickly, using non-lethal shock batons on the disoriented enemies. They weren't here to kill everyone, just to take back what was theirs. Section B clear, Ari reported. Moving to the cargo bay. Inside that cargo bay, Yuna heard the explosion and knew what it meant. Earth had come. She looked at Ambassador Hyenwu and saw relief in his eyes. The Calvish guards heard it too. They raised their weapons, pointing them at the prisoners. The commander's orders had been clear. If rescue came, kill the hostages rather than let them be freed. Yuna didn't think. She moved. Years of training took over. She grabbed a piece of broken metal from the floor and threw it at the nearest guard. It hit him in the face shield, cracking it. Before he could recover, she charged him. The other prisoners stared in shock. Yuna, the quiet diplomat, moved like a soldier. She hit the guard with her shoulder, knocking him backward. Her hands found his weapon and twisted it from his grip. She turned it on the other guards. "Get down!" She yelled to the prisoners. The aliens dropped immediately. The Calvish guards fired at Yuna, but she was already moving, using their own barricades for cover. She fired back, aiming for their legs. She didn't want to kill them if she could avoid it, but she would protect these people at any cost. The cargo bay doors exploded inward. Lieutenant Jiwoo came through with her squad, weapons raised. They assessed the situation in seconds. Yuna behind cover, prisoners on the ground, Calvish guards scattered, covering fire. Jiwoo shouted. Her Marines laid down suppression fire while Eris's squad moved to protect the prisoners. The Calvish guards, caught between Yuna and the Marines, surrendered quickly. Jiwoo approached Yuna carefully. "You all right?" "Better now," Yuna said, lowering the weapon. "These people need medical attention." "One," Jiwoo called. The combat medic rushed in with her team. Haewon immediately began assessing the prisoners. Many of them were injured, some seriously. She worked quickly, her hands steady. When she came to an Altherian with a shattered limb, she paused. Crystalline anatomy was different. But she remembered Dr. Dong Hyen's briefings. "I need synthesis gel," she called. One of her team brought it. She carefully applied it to the fractures, bonding the crystal structure. The Altherian made a sound of relief. "You're going to be okay," Haewon said gently. "All of you. We've got you now." Outside the station, the space battle was ending. The Calvish fleet was scattered. Half their ships were damaged or destroyed. The rest were trying to retreat. Captain Taman watched them go without pursuit. "Should we chase them down, sir?" Mira asked. "No, let them run. Let them tell their people what happened here." One Calvish ship remained. The command vessel, its engines disabled by precision fire. Taman had ordered it captured intact. Now he stood in its corridor with a security team, walking toward the bridge. The Calvish commander sat in his chair, staring at the human who entered. Taman looked ordinary. Average height for his species, no special markings. But there was something in his eyes that made the commander's scales prickle. "You attacked a peaceful station," Taman said calmly. "You killed people who couldn't defend themselves. You took humans prisoner." "I followed my orders," the commander growled. "You cannot blame a soldier for doing his duty, can?" "We do." Taman stepped closer. "Your species made a mistake. You thought the consortium was weak because they're peaceful. You thought all civilized species must be easy prey. And are you civilized human?" Taman smiled without humor. "We try to be. We work at it every day. But we come from a world that spent 4 billion years trying to kill everything on it. We learn to survive by being tougher than anything else. We learn to fight back." He gestured to the view screen, showing the damaged Calvish fleet. "Your ships had better weapons, better shields, more experience, but you didn't have what we have. You didn't grow up on a death world. You don't know what it means to be born into a world where everything wants you dead," the Calvish commander said. "Nothing. You're going to take a message back to your Dominion," Taman continued. "Tell them to leave consortium space alone. Tell them if they attack any consortium member, humanity will respond. And next time, we won't be so gentle." "This was gentle?" the commander asked in disbelief. "We disabled your ships. We took prisoners. We used minimum necessary force." Taemin's expression hardened. "If we had wanted to destroy you, your fleet would be debris. Remember that. Remember that humans chose mercy today." Back on the station, the rescued prisoners gathered in a large chamber. They were being treated, fed, and comforted by human crew members. Dr. Dong Haen moved among them, explaining human nature to confused aliens. "Why are they so kind now?" Avrel asked. "We saw them fight. They were terrifying." "Because humans are both," Dong Haen explained. "They can be fierce warriors when needed, but they're also the species that domesticated wolves and turned them into pets. They bond with anything. They protect what they care about with everything they have." Ambassador Hyenwoo stood with Admiral Sujin, who had transferred to the station. They watched the Marines helping elderly Telmorians walk to the medical bay, saw Sergeant Ari playing with Altharian children, making them laugh after their trauma. "We showed them what we are," Hyenwoo said quietly. "Both sides of us." "Good," Sujin replied. "Let the galaxy see what humanity brings. Protection and compassion, delivered by people who know how to survive anything." The battle was over. The rescue was complete. But both humans and aliens knew that everything had changed. The galaxy had seen what Deathworlders could do. Now they would have to decide what came next. 3 days after the battle, Viridian Crossing was a different place. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to repair the damage. The holes in the hull were sealed. The power systems hummed back to life. But the scars on the survivors would take longer to heal. Yuna walked through the corridors that had been a battlefield. Everything was clean now. The bodies had been taken to the medical bay for proper identification and burial rites. The blood had been scrubbed away. But she still saw it when she closed her eyes. "You did well," a voice said behind her. She turned to see Captain Taemin. He looked tired. They all did. "I did what I had to," Yuna replied. "Any soldier would have. You're not a soldier anymore. You're a diplomat. But when it mattered, you remembered your training. You protected people." He paused. "That's who we are. Both things at once." They walked together toward the main conference room. The consortium had called an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species were gathering to discuss what had happened. Most of them had only heard stories. Now they wanted answers. Ambassador Hanwoo waited at the entrance. His head wound had been treated by Haewon, sealed with advanced medical gel. He would have a scar, but he wore it with quiet dignity. "Are you ready for this?" He asked Yuna and Taemin. "Ready as we'll ever be," Taemin said. The conference room was packed. Aliens of every type filled the seats, their multiple eyes or sensory organs focused on the humans entering. The room fell silent. Admiral Sujin stood at the center, her uniform crisp and perfect despite days without proper rest. Next to her stood Dr. Dong Han, who had prepared detailed presentations. An Altharian elder spoke first, her crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. "We are grateful for humanity's intervention. You saved countless lives. But we must understand what we witnessed. Your methods of warfare are beyond anything in our experience." "That's what I'm here to explain," Dr. Dongan said. He activated a holographic display showing Earth. "This is our homeworld. What you call a Class 12 death world." Display zoomed in, showing Earth's features. Mountains that reached into thin atmosphere. Oceans with crushing depths. Deserts where nothing should survive. Frozen poles that would kill most consortium species in minutes. "Our planet has gravity nearly twice what most of you experience as normal," Donghain continued. "Our atmosphere is rich in oxygen, which is toxic to many species in high concentrations. We have extreme weather patterns. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanoes. For most of Earth's history, these natural disasters wiped out entire populations." He showed images of Earth's wildlife. Predators with claws and teeth. Poisonous creatures. Animals that could crush bones or inject venom. Everything on our world competed to survive. Plants developed toxins. Animals developed hunting strategies. And humans developed intelligence and cooperation. A Telmorian representative raised a tentacle. But you are civilized now. You have technology. Why do you still carry these violent tendencies? Admiral Sujin stepped forward. Because we can't forget them. Our bodies are built for this world. Strong bones to handle the gravity. Efficient healing because injuries were constant. Endurance because we hunted prey by chasing them until they collapsed. We're pursuit predators who learn to think. She pulled up combat footage from the battle. The aliens watched in silence as human ships moved with impossible speed. Marines fought with coordinated precision. Taemin's tactics unfolded with brutal efficiency. We don't fight for conquest, Sujin explained. We fight to protect. When that station sent a distress signal, we didn't hesitate. Because humans bond with others. We make friends easily. And we protect our friends absolutely. Neldevrel clicked nervously. Your violence is frightening. How do we know you won't turn it against us? Heian Wu spoke up. Because despite everything Dr. Donghyun showed you, humans also developed compassion. We learned cooperation. We discovered that working together made us stronger. Yes, we can fight. But we prefer to build, to create, to help. He gestured to the windows overlooking the station. Look outside. See those human engineers? They're working 8-hour shifts to repair this station. Our medics are treating your wounded alongside ours. Sergeant Ari spent yesterday helping Altherian children process their trauma. We are warriors when needed, but that's not all we are. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then another Altherian spoke. The Calvish attacked us because we couldn't defend ourselves. We evolved past warfare millennia ago. We thought violence was primitive, but now we see that peace only exists when protected. You want us to teach you to fight? Taemin said. It wasn't a question. We want to understand how to defend ourselves. Not to conquer. Not to attack. But to ensure this never happens again, Sujin exchanged glances with her officers. This was the moment they had been preparing for. The consortium needs protection, she said carefully. Not just from the Calvish, but from any species that sees your peaceful nature as weakness. Humanity can provide that protection, but we need you to understand what that means. Dr. Dong Han pulled up another display. We can train your security forces, but we'll adapt our methods to your capabilities. You'll never fight like humans because your bodies aren't built for it. We'll teach you tactics that work for your strengths. And in exchange, the Vrel Elder asked, in exchange, you allow us to station defense fleets in key consortium territories. You share your technology and resources, and you accept that sometimes. Protection requires difficult choices. The debate went on for hours. Some species were eager for human protection. Others were hesitant, worried about becoming dependent on warriors they didn't fully understand. But slowly, consensus emerged. While the politicians talked, Lieutenant Ji Woo met with consortium security forces. She walked through their training facility with Sergeant Iari, evaluating what they had. This is ceremonial, Ari said, looking at the practice weapons. They wave these around at formal events. And we start from the beginning, Ji Woo replied. She addressed the gathered security officers, a mix of species. I know you're afraid. You saw what the Calvish did. You saw what we did. And you're wondering if you could ever do the same. A young Vrel clicked nervously. Our species hasn't fought in 3,000 years. How can we learn in days what took you millennia? You don't need to become human warriors, Giwu said. You need to become yourselves, but prepared. Work with your strengths. You, Vrel, have 6 legs and incredible balance. You can hold positions that would make humans fall. Altharians, your crystalline bodies can withstand impacts that would break organic bones. Telmorians, you move through water faster than anything we've ever seen. She pulled up tactical scenarios. We'll teach you small unit tactics, how to use cover, how to coordinate, how to protect civilians. You won't be frontline assault troops, but you can be the first response while help arrives. Hope flickered in their strange eyes. Maybe they could learn to defend themselves after all. In the medical bay, Haywan trained consortium medics. She showed them human medical techniques, then adapted them for alien physiology. Your instinct is to be gentle, she told an Altherian medical student. But sometimes, saving a life requires force. Sometimes you have to hurt someone to help them. It's not cruel. It's necessary, she demonstrated on a human volunteer, showing how to seal an arterial bleed. The pressure required would have seemed violent to the Altherian. But the volunteer thanked her when she finished. You're not just healers, Haywan said. You're combat medics now. You work in danger to save lives. It's the most important job there is. On the captured Calvish command ship, Admiral Sujin met with the enemy commander one final time. He sat in a cell, his pride broken, but his eyes still defiant. Your fleet is being repaired, Sujin told him. We're giving you supplies and fuel. You're free to leave, the commander stared. Why? Because I want you to deliver a message. Tell the Calvish Dominion what happened here. Tell them about humanity. Tell them that the consortium is under our protection now. They won't listen. They'll send a bigger fleet. Sujin smiled coldly. Let them try. The fleet you saw was one of 12. We have ships stationed across human space. We have weapons you haven't seen yet. And unlike you, we don't fight to conquer. We fight to protect, which means we'll always fight harder than you. She leaned forward, but here's the real message. Tell your leaders that humanity offers a choice. Leave consortium space alone, and we'll leave you alone. Trade peacefully, and we'll trade back. Or continue attacking defenseless species, and discover why Earth is called a death world. The Calvish commander nodded slowly. He understood now. These humans weren't just warriors. They were survivors of a world that had tried to kill them since birth. Fighting was in their blood, their bones, their very DNA. One more thing, Sujin added. Tell them we took prisoners. We repaired your ships. We're sending you home. We could have killed you all. Remember that we chose mercy. Remember that humans can be kind. But never forget that we can also be something else entirely. 2 days later, the Calvish fleet limped away from Viridian Crossing. They carried supplies, wounded, and a message that would echo through the Dominion. Earth had entered the galactic stage not as conquerors, but as protectors. And the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months passed, and the galaxy learned to live with its new reality. The Calvish Dominion had gone silent, withdrawing to their core territories. Intelligence reports suggested internal debates among their leadership. Some wanted revenge. Others argued that attacking humanity would be suicide. For now, they did nothing, and that was victory enough. On Earth, Captain Taman stood in a government building in Seoul, facing a room full of politicians and military leaders. The debate had been raging for weeks. The consortium had formally requested that Earth join as their primary defense force. Now humanity had to decide what that meant. They're asking us to be their military, a counselor argued. To fight their battles. To become enforcers. They're asking for protection, Taman countered. There's a difference. We wouldn't control them. We'd defend them from external threats. Admiral Sujin, who had retired from active duty but remained an advisor, spoke from her seat. The question isn't whether we have the power. We proved that. The question is whether we have the wisdom to use it properly. A younger officer raised a hand. What if we become what we fought against? What if other species start fearing us instead of trusting us? Then we fail, Sujin said simply. Being strong isn't enough. We have to be trustworthy. That's harder and more important. The debate continued, but slowly, a consensus emerged. Earth would accept the consortium's request, but with conditions. They would defend against external threats, but wouldn't interfere in internal consortium politics. They would train consortium security forces, but wouldn't replace them. They would be partners, not rulers. The announcement was made public a week later. Reactions across the consortium were mixed. Some species celebrated, relieved to have powerful allies. Others worried about becoming dependent on human military might. but most recognized the reality. The galaxy was dangerous, and humanity had proven they could handle that danger. On Viridian Crossing, now fully repaired, a memorial ceremony took place. Representatives from every affected species gathered. The names of the dead were read aloud in a dozen languages and communication methods. Humans, Altharians, Vrel, Telmorians, and others who had died in the attack. Una stood in the crowd, wearing her diplomatic uniform. Beside her were Lieutenant Ji Woo and Sergeant Ari, in dress uniforms. They listened to each name, bearing witness. When the ceremony ended, an Altharian elder approached them. "Thank you," she said simply. "For everything, we only did what was right," Una replied. "No," the elder corrected gently. "You did what you were capable of. Not every species could have done this. We are learning that capability and morality are not opposites. You taught us that." Later that day, Una received new orders. She was being promoted to Special Envoy for Human Consortium Relations. Her job would be bridging the gap between humanity's warrior nature and the consortium's peaceful culture. "You're uniquely qualified," Ambassador Hyanwu told her. "You're a soldier and a diplomat. You understand both sides?" "I'm not sure I understand either side completely," Una admitted. "None of us do. That's why we need people willing to try." Across the station, Lieutenant Ji Woo taught a class on small unit tactics to mixed species security teams. She had adapted human military doctrine for their capabilities. The Vrel learned to use their multiple legs for stable firing platforms. The Altharians discovered their crystalline bodies could form protective barriers for softer species. The Telmorians practiced rapid response techniques for aquatic environments. "You're not human," Ji Woo told them. "You'll never fight exactly like us. But you can develop your own style. Use what makes you unique." A young Vrel raised a leg hesitantly. "Will we ever be as good as human soldiers?" "No," Ji Woo said honestly. "But you don't need to be. You need to be good enough to protect your people until help arrives. That's the goal. Not to become warriors, but to survive long enough for warriors to reach you." Sergeant Irie worked with civilian protection programs. She taught aliens how to shelter during attacks, how to provide first aid, how to stay calm during chaos. The skills humans learned as children on their dangerous world. "On Earth, we grow up knowing that nature can kill us," she explained to a group of Telmorian civilians. "Storms, earthquakes, wild animals. We teach our children to prepare, to respond, to survive." "You need those same skills now?" Telmorian elder asked. "Is it sad? Growing up with such fear?" Ari considered this. "We don't think of it as fear. It's respect. Respect for the world's power. And that respect made us careful. Made us thoughtful. Maybe that's why we can be both fierce and kind. We know how dangerous the universe is, so we protect what matters." In the medical facilities, Haewon trained consortium doctors in trauma medicine. She showed them techniques humans had developed over millennia of warfare and accidents. How to stop bleeding quickly. How to stabilize broken bones. How to keep someone alive when everything seemed hopeless. "Human medicine is aggressive," she explained. "We cut, we break, we force the body to heal. Your medicine is gentler. But sometimes gentle isn't enough." An Altharian medical student watched as Haewon demonstrated a procedure. "You damage the body to save it?" "Yes. We call it necessary harm. It's the same principle as warfare. Sometimes you have to do difficult things to protect what matters. The key is knowing when and having the skill to do it right." Dr. Dung Han had established his Institute for Human-Alien Understanding on the station. It became a place where both humans and consortium species could learn about each other. Study groups examined Earth's history, biology, and culture. In return, humans learned about the thousands of years of peace the consortium had maintained. "We're all learning," Dong Han told a mixed group of students. "Humans are learning that peace is possible. That violence isn't always necessary. And you're learning that sometimes peace requires the willingness to fight for it." A Vrel student clicked thoughtfully. "Is that not a contradiction? Fighting for peace?" "It seems like it," Dong Han agreed. But humans learned long ago that bullies only understand strength. We tried peace on Earth many times. It only lasted when protected by people willing to defend it. That's not ideal, but it's reality. On the consortium's Central Council station, the formal agreement was signed. Captain Timon was named commander of the Joint Defense Initiative. He would coordinate between human forces and consortium security. It was a massive responsibility, and he felt its weight. "Don't try to make them into humans," Admiral Sujin advised before she left for Earth. "Help them become the best version of themselves. And if that's not enough," Taman asked, "then that's what we're here for. That's our role. To be the backup, to be the shield they hide behind when needed." She smiled. "But maybe teach them how to be their own shield first." The Calvish response came 6 weeks after the battle. Not an invasion, but a diplomatic message. They requested a meeting to discuss territorial boundaries and non-aggression agreements. The Consortium Council was shocked. The Dominion had never negotiated before. "They're afraid," Commander Mira analyzed. "Our tactics scared them. They can't predict what we'll do," Gutaman said. "Fear can lead to respect. Respect can lead to peace. It's not ideal, but it works." The meeting took place in neutral space. Taman represented Earth and the consortium. The Calvish sent their most experienced diplomat, not their military commanders. That alone sent a message. "We propose borders," the Calvish diplomat said. "Territory you protect, territory we control. No crossing without permission." "We accept," Taman said, "with one condition. Any species in your territory who wishes to leave must be allowed to do so. No forced subjects." The Calvish diplomat was silent for a long moment, then nodded. "Agreed." It wasn't perfect peace. It was practical peace. The peace that came from mutual understanding of consequences. But it was a start. Back on Viridian Crossing, Una stood in the same observation deck where she had been when the attack began. The view looked the same. Stars beyond counting. Ships coming and going. But everything was different now. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Honestly, scary. Everyone looks at us like we're either saviors or monsters. Sometimes both," Una smiled. "That's because we're both. The galaxy is learning that humans contain multitudes. We can be fierce warriors and gentle healers. Aggressive fighters and patient teachers. It's confusing for them because most species evolved past their violent stage. They don't understand being both at once. How do we show them the good parts while keeping the dangerous parts ready? We live it every day. We help where we can. We fight when we must. We're honest about what we are." She looked out at the stars. "We answered that SOS because it was the right thing to do. We fought because it was necessary. We showed mercy because it was possible. That's what humanity is. That's what we offer the galaxy." The recruit nodded, seeming to understand. Months turned to years. The Joint Defense Initiative became a permanent fixture of consortium space. Human ships patrolled trade routes. Human instructors trained security forces. Human engineers helped build better defenses. And slowly the consortium species learned. They learned that strength and kindness weren't opposites. That being capable of violence didn't make you violent. That sometimes the most peaceful people were those who could fight, but chose not to.